I'd like to welcome you to the 2023 EI Online Open House. Today we have EI staff and fellows who are very excited to talk to you about the fellowship program, and we're very glad that you could join. Today we have three of our staff. Myself, I run communications at the Equity Initiative. We have A, who is our program associate. And we also have Sam, who is helping us all the way from Hong Kong University. But the superstars of this webinar are three fellows. Two of them are still actually in their induction year, so you can ask them about that later. The first one is Sulia Chanavong from Laos. She's a 2023 EI fellow and also the Vaccine Preventable Diseases and Immunization Officer at the WHO in Laos. We also have Kaneka Keo, who serves as the Inclusion Mekong Regional Water Governance Project Phase 2 Manager at Oxfam in Cambodia. And lastly, we have a senior fellow joining us today from 2019, and that's Goris Mostaqim, who is the founder and chairman of Asgar Muda Foundation and the founder and director of Samut Nusantara Consulting. So we have a range of fellows today that you can ask from. And on the agenda, there's actually only 7 things, or 7 broad things anyway. And I think we want to spend most of that time on 5 and 6 so that you can hear directly from our fellows and that you can also get your questions answered. The reason that the Equity Initiative exists is because of 2 different entities. It's actually the Atlantic Philanthropies and the China Medical Board, both of which are very established organizations. So EI actually started in 2016. So next year, our next round of fellows will be our 8th cohort. And the reason that we wanted to focus in Southeast Asia and China is that there are serious health inequities in this region. Some examples include an imbalance of power, inequitable policies and law, unequal economic conditions and opportunities, and countries and sectors that are working in silos. There's also a note here about health equity and the social determinants. This is the question we get asked about a lot, but health equity for us is a broad term. Things like level of education, your economic class, all of that influence health. So when you apply, keep that in mind. You don't need to work in health because tackling health equity requires more than just people in the health sector. As an organization, our vision is a fairer, healthier, and more equitable Southeast Asia and China. And our mission is to build and foster a community of transformative agents across sectors, disciplines, and cultures, along with strategic partners to bring about systems change for health equity in the region. So what does that mean for you as a fellow then? In the big picture, we want to create a community with fellows at its core to drive systems change. We want fellows to continue to be active well after the fellowship year and the induction year ends. And our senior fellow, Goris, can give examples of what that looks like. Let's have a little bit of a deep dive about the fellowship and the community. The first is the induction year or the fellowship year. And this is probably how you know EI. It starts off with 6 learning events across the year, which are fully funded. And what that means is when you're at the learning event, EI covers your accommodation, your food, your transport. We cover flights. We make it so that when you come, your main responsibility is to learn from the program, from the resource people, and from the fellows that are there as well. Every year, we take about 20 to 30 fellows, and they're all from Southeast Asia and China. And at the very end of the year, you start your second year project, which is a group project amongst your fellows in the same cohort. That's kind of your final project to finish your induction year. And we can talk a little bit more about that if you like. You can ask questions about it, but I don't have a lot of details about that in this presentation. If you look over on the right side of the slide, you can actually see the different locations and kind of the time of year that we travel. So this is just here for reference, but you can see from last year and also from 2019 what the schedule kind of looks like. That picture was actually taken in Bangladesh for Asia Trek. So in 2019, We went to Cox's Bazar, where the Rohingya are being held after they left Myanmar. And our fellows had direct access to the experts and talking about the health inequities that exist in a place like a refugee camp as big as Cox's Bazar. And we also got to visit inside of the refugee camps and talk to the refugees themselves. So this is just an example of what it's like to go on one of our learning events, but we can talk a little bit more about that. For the induction year, you start off with the opening retreat. You're really just trying to get to know the other fellows in your cohort, get to know more about the program, learn about leadership, learn about health equity, and it's really setting the tone and the base for the rest of the year. In Global Learning 1, what we do is we take you in a completely different context for health equity. So if you look back at the locations of Global Learning 1, last year we went to Atlanta. This year and in 2019, they went to South Africa. And in previous years, they went to Cuba. And the point of that is to learn about a different context of health equity and really challenge you to think about how things are different, why they're different, and how that applies back to our context. In Global Learning 2, this is a staple. Again, if I go back here, you'll notice that Global Learning 2 is pretty much always at Harvard. And we spend a week at Harvard with renowned professors. In this picture is Marshall Gantz. He teaches a very famous course, public narrative, very sought after course. While there's other trainings that you go through in the week, this is a lot more of a sit down lecture style, like you're back in university. Most years you even get to stay in the dorms for Global Learning 2. Lastly, I want to talk about Asia Trek. And this is from the same trip as in the other slide. This is in Cox's Bazar. And Asia Trek is very similar to Global Learning 1, except that we're more learning about the health equity context closer to our region. So Bangladesh is not actually in Southeast Asia, as you know, but in most years, it's usually in Southeast Asia. And last year we were in Singapore. In years past, we were in the Philippines and Indonesia. So same concept. What about the health equity context in this country or this particular city can we learn from, and what can we apply back home? After your induction year, we move on to the next part of the fellowship, which is just as important. And I think this is where the equity initiative is quite unique. We call it community building because we want you to continue to be part of our community, contributing and driving systems change with other fellows. Again, Goris can speak more about this later. The reason that we have community building is because we don't believe that a one-year part-time program is sufficient to create systems change. We believe that equity must be created and sustained on the ground. Fellows can't work alone, and you need sufficient support and nurturing. So the things that we're already doing for community building include things like further training. We have grant opportunities. We have mentorship as well. So one way to think about this is you come for the fellowship, but you stay for the community. In the picture below, this is actually Goris's community building project. You can see him right here. And our new president, our new China Medical Board president, Roger Glass, here as well. He was visiting. He checked on this particular project, which was to stop stunting. That's why you see them holding out their hands. They want to stop stunting in Indonesia. So who are our fellows? This is a very big snapshot of the kind of people you can expect to meet at our fellowship. I want to draw your attention first on the right side of the slide on the bottom. If you look at the sector, you can see there's actually a diverse range of fellows and where they work. You can see that we have people from NGOs, government, private businesses, academia, and IGOs. And we also have architects, artists, and producers. Our group of fellows are actually very diverse. And you'll notice that health equity is broad, and it's really tied into the way that we pick fellows as well. Tackling it really requires more than just the health sector. If you look at the field as well, you'll notice that there's actually more non-health fellows than there are health fellows. Who can apply? You may have seen this on social media or our newsletter. But let's just go through it really quickly. The number one thing is you have a track record of demonstrated leadership and commitment to social justice. Number two is you have a clear long-term vision to promote systems change for health equity. You have at least 6 years of professional working experience. Number four is you have to be a resident citizen of Southeast Asia or China. I want to clarify that, and this is quite important. We're focused on Southeast Asia, and so the people that become our fellows are also, they must hold a passport to one of the Southeast Asian countries or China, and they also should be working in the region. The thinking being that, if you're working in another region, you're probably helping health equity over there. And we want you to help with health equity over here. Number five is to be proficient in spoken and written English. So the bottom line is really to achieve health equity, we need fellows in health and non-health fields. Health equity cannot be solved by the health sector alone. So when you're applying for the fellowship, it doesn't mean you have to work in health. It just means you have to be committed to the broad concept of health equity. What should you expect if you become a fellow? Well, here are some things that come to mind. One is the commitment and active participation in all 6 learning events. Each one of these is about a week each. Remember that this program is designed for working professionals. And so we have letters to your employers explaining what the program is about and asking them to sign off to let you attend our events. In the past, we've actually even had fellows have to drop out of the program because they couldn't meet the requirement of being at each learning event. But, we don't just want you to be at the learning event as well. We want you to be actively participating. Again, we've tried to iron out everything so that all your main responsibility while you're there is to learn and to participate. In between the learning events as well, you'll be asked to complete short online modules. And again, there's the community building commitment. This is a big deal. The fellowship year is really just the beginning. And the last thing I wanted to mention is that if you've applied before and you want to apply again, you are welcome to do so. In fact, many of our fellows don't get into the program without applying more than once. We can get into the timeline, but I think you might have seen this already on social or their newsletter or website. But just quickly, applications close August 31. You'll be notified around October and probably have interviews around October as well. Sometimes it pushes into November, and the final selections will be in December. And publicly, it will be announced in January before you have your opening retreat in March of 2024. Let's move on to the fellows. Could you kindly turn on your cameras?
Hi, everyone. And this is Kanika. And first, I would like to thank for those who register to hear us today. And it's my privilege. Thank you a lot, Kim, for bringing me in to the open house. So as Kim introduced, I work with Oxfam, and I work for, we call like Mekong Water Governance Program. I'm sure that most of you know about the Mekong. It is a river which is cut across the different countries. And I work as, I manage the inclusion project, and overwork it looking at how we can bring the voice of the community, those who are living, rely on the river, the water, the forest, and the land, and those who are often not have a chance and opportunity to be in the same table when it's come to discussion around development work and the investment that in the region. So mainly the work that I involve, it's more on how we can facilitate the process, how we bring the voice and equity of those people who should be in the room. And on the same time, we also create a space where those communities be able to also amplify their voice and allow them to come together and build their own narrative. So my work, it really touch more how to facilitate the inclusive and equity among those communities, especially when it comes to the women and indigenous across the Mekong.
Okay. And finally, Julie. Oh, sorry.
Yeah. So maybe a little bit in terms of why is I part of this fellowship program, because I think when I read the first announcement of the fellowship program, the most attract me is what is an equity and what is the leadership that we are looking for. And I first also getting stuck about the health equity, which I'm not from the health background, but it's more on environmental. But when we look at it in terms of the holistic side of it, health is really part of everything. If we look at in terms of mentality health or well-being of those people, and I think that that's why I'm here today.
Okay, thank you. And finally, Sulia.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Suliya Channavong. I'm a public health officer working with WHO on vaccine delivery, on mainly monitoring and evaluation of the vaccine program in Laos. And I'm also doing a lot of capacity building work for healthcare workers together with the Ministry of Health and new vaccine introduction. Can you hear me okay? Sure. A little bit more on why did I apply to this event. So we had a colleague at the WHO who I really look up to her and admire her working style, and she joined the program in 2019. So I went on the website and checked in, and what attracted me most is, wow, there's 6 travels. So I was so excited about this program, and I joined. And to be honest, a lot of surprises. Like I met people like Bong Kanika, who is so passionate about health equity, and I met Farida, who is so passionate about her work. I think that's what's really its surprise for me and about this program, and I would really encourage you all to join the program.
I guess we already have some questions in the chat. The first year is all about learning and developing a project, and the second year is implementing the project. Will we get mentors for the project? So yes, the first year is about learning and developing. The project is a part of that. And the second year is for implementation. And mentors for the project, not necessarily, but when you are writing your proposal, we have resource persons there for Project Accelerator. So one of the learning events later in the year, around October, you will basically be writing proposals that entire week with resource persons. I also wanted to ask you, so Pao, you thought that it would be interesting to travel for the learning events. What has your fellowship experience been like so far?
I think we all of us can also share about the travels and the experience so far. So I would say most memorable travel was to South Africa. That was my first time in African continent. It's really broadening my perspective of a lot of things, and also the way the program it's organized. It's not just sitting and learning in a lecture, but we have a lot of field trips. And one of my favorite event was the Drama for Life, where we go to theater and then learn about power imbalances in a very interactive way. I love it a lot.
Okay. What about you, Kaneka?
At Tupao, I would say that yes, the first time for the opening retreat, it looked like fun for us because it's quite relaxed, and it's allowed us to know each other better through the different like river of life and activity box. And I think those exercise it's allowed us to really unpack and also be able to discover in terms of who we are just beyond the name. I know Pao is beyond just Pao WHO. So it's kind of create a space where we all can be able to see different vulnerability of our fellow, and we are able to how we can help each other through that river of life exercise. And then it will continue to build on that South Africa trip. It's to me it's the most frustrating and it's stressful because maybe most of you aware in terms of how the issue of inequity in Africa is, and if you we mostly heard from the report, but in the reality, when I first arrived, I just feel like, wow, the country is so beautiful, and the infrastructure is like in Europe. It's somewhere like in UK, but it's just like travel 20 kilometers from the city. It's completely another side of the world in the South Africa, which a lot of people that we speak with, the activists, those people who risk their life, lost their family, lost their sister and brother through that journey of fight for the justice and equity. And it even get me stuck into that in terms of what is happening in this world. We're talking about a lot equity. We spend so much time fighting for this, but this kind of thing still going on and exists in this world. So it was stress. Actually, it really put me down in terms of losing even more hope, no inspiration. But at one point, we also talked to them. They still continue the fighting until now because they still hope. So this is something that I learned from other activists and from other people who also tell me that sometimes we getting stuck, but we stuck in the right place. So if we are not doing it here, so who gonna do it? If we are not doing now, when should we do it? So those conversation, it really helped me a lot, to really discover just something that I also looking for as well, while I'm also working in the same and similar situation, fighting for that climate justice and environmental issue in the region. So I would say that it's kind of shock, but on the same time, it's allowed to discover and heal through the process. And thanks to all my fellow who always knock my door, call me and message me, how are you doing? Those kind of things, it really help you to bounce together with all the fellow that sharing you love, kind and care. And this is something that you really get from the fellowship program, not just about the content learning, but it really people-centric and the connection.
Yeah, I have to agree with Kaneka there. And actually, those are the kind of bonds that we try and build. And we don't want it to just be like that. We can grow it into something else. And actually, Goris and I were talking earlier today. But Goris, can you talk a little bit about community building, the things that you've done? And, some of the things that you said earlier is about how you're committed. And I think, having strong bonds like that helps with the commitment. But, what do you think about the community building?
Yeah, thank you, Kim. I think when you talk about EI fellowship is as a lifelong community, I think it is true because right after we graduate from EI fellowship, we get transferred to Atlantic fellowship. So it's just like a buy one get two. You don't even buy, it's free. So you apply one get two. So I think lots of self-development and also access opportunity that you will get from joining this fellowship. So I think it's not just about the learning session, but also another opportunity like grants. So in EI, you have second year project. Obviously, you have to work with cross other fellows from other countries to address the health equity issue. And after that, you also get an opportunity to join Atlantic Fellowship, which is about collaboration between the 7 sister fellowship. So you're going to meet fellows coming from GBHI, Global Brain Health Institute, and also from the Tekano in South Africa, from the AFC in Australia, and Racial Equity in George Washington, and other fellows. So you will be encouraged to active to apply for the thematic convening, which I also joined in. Last November, I went to South Africa for the thematic convening on social entrepreneurship. So I'm also the co-designer of this fellowship. And also last week, I just came from Oxford. I was a facilitator for the global convening. So this is like a graduation for or welcoming reception for all fellows who just joined. So in this case, 2022 fellows and the other who didn't make it last year to Phuket. And also you will be encouraged to work together as a group of fellows. And this is not just about serious or about thinking about all the conference, but also having fun. For just example, I just founded the Atlantic Running Club in Phuket last year, and now is 17 or 18 people coming in. We host a daily run when Atlantic hosts the convening or thematic convening everywhere. So it's just like bonding, but you will get a chance to work with other best brain in the world, researcher, or also the professor, doctor, and social entrepreneur, climate justice, climate warrior, and other fellows all over the world. So I think the traveling is one thing, but I think how you can use this opportunity to build yourself and to make an impact for the community. So I think this is what I like. All the drills from EI, not just the global learning, but also other training like public narrative, adaptive leadership, organizing. It is so, yeah, I have benefited from this training. So in second year project, in my case, we work on the stunted children in Indonesia because this is one of the most pressing issue in health equity in Indonesia. So out of 5 or 1 out of 6 children in Indonesia is stunted. This is so dangerous. This is not just affecting the physical development, but also the intellectual capacity. So it's just threat for our future. So we identified this case and we're working together in second year project. Then using the community building fund, which is the other benefit we got if we are EI fellows, we have this opportunity to scale our project. So now our project is already scaled up to 3 provinces in West Java, the most populated province in Indonesia, and NTB or Nusa Tenggara Barat, the neighbor of NTT province, which was the location of IOSO's second year project. And now we already scale up through the government program. So from 10 or 9 villages in NTT, in NTB, we are now working on hundreds of villages. So we succeeded to influence the policy in NTB province. We're working with the governor, with the office, as well as the West Java province. So it would not have been possible without EI support for the second year project funding. When we have to learn trial and error, we kind of get an insight what did work, what didn't work, and also how we can also leverage the program using those framework in the working as stakeholders, adaptive leadership, as well as the how to create the public campaign in the public narrative. So I think this is kind of this is not just about traveling. This is not just about bonding. This is not just about yourself, but how you can pay it forward, how you can create a change, how you can create a systemic change as a fellow. I think that's all about. So in order to apply for EI fellowship, embrace yourself, not just about yourself, but how you become a fine leader to contribute to the change in Southeast Asia and global world. So this is about EI all about. And the Atlantic, you are also encouraged to work across a country, across a sister fellowship. So I'm working now with someone from Africa and also from United States who is an engineer and researcher in MIT. So this is a global world. Basically, if you want to contribute to your nation, your community, and you will develop as a person a better version of yourself. So I think EI and Atlantic is this one of the best decision I made, one of the best fellowship I have ever joined with, and I think this is true lifelong community. So thanks EI as well. Thank you, Kim.
Thank you, Goris. This is a very passionate answer. Thank you for that, Goris. That you see, actually, in the short summary, what happened there is it started as a second year project, and it was successful. They applied for a grant internally to extend it and scale it up, and now they're working with more and more stakeholders.
Yeah.
So I want to take
this is just also a government, but also we're working with other philanthropists in NTB and also the other private sector. So lots of support coming in. And 3 weeks ago, Tracy already here from SNGI and Gigi 2023 fellows also collaborate to have the community building of stunting in Indonesia. So I think, yeah, so good.
Time to address some of the questions that we have. So one is, can the collaboration be the alliance outside of EI? And, if just hearing from Goris' story, the answer is yes. The way that we think about community building is the fellows are still at the core. They try and drive the change, but it doesn't mean that it's only fellows. A lot of EI, we teach is collaborative leadership and collaborating with others and breaking silos. So it's impossible if it's only fellows that are involved when we have these kind of partnerships. And another thing, another question is, what you think makes a powerful and compelling application? This one, I'll answer this one. And really, it comes back to what we have in our eligibility, that and one of the things, I guess, that maybe you don't see there is, how committed are you for positive systems change? How committed are you towards health equity? It's a little bit like what Gora said. It's you're not just thinking about yourself, that you're also thinking about, how can I pay this forward? In a way, coming into the fellowship is kind of like a privilege. How can you pay that privilege forward? How can you grow it and then have it reap benefits to your community or your city or your country? And Goris is already thinking global. So these are the kind of things, I guess, that we are looking for. And there was one more question earlier about, a lot of our fellows are co-founders or CEOs or something like this. Is this something that EI is particularly looking for? I don't think that the title matters so much all the time. Again, it comes down to, are you committed to the work? Are you committed towards health equity? And that you're not just here for the good times. The fellowship year is such a good time, but it's a lifelong commitment. It's a lifelong community. So I just wanted to take that time. And that was a very serious question. So I want to throw in a fun question in there. What are some things that surprised you during the fellowship? Kaneka, I see you smiling.
No, Kim, I sort of want to link to the first question in terms of how, because talking from this year, fellow have a very diverse, and we are having from the senior to the junior, and we also have the different background from the private sector, from NGO, from working with our counterpart with the government. So the diverse actually bring unique for us. And like we also have a fellow who feel like sometimes, especially when it comes to the second learning in the US, when there is a lot of topic to broader global context, and they feel just so small. They feel just what they don't really understand what is it, and then they feel not fit to them. But at one point, it just allow them to also see in terms of everyone have their own expertise that bring in to the fellowship program. It's not about your position. It's about how many years you work and how many years you experience, how old you are. But it's about the unique, how you can deal and contribute, like you mentioned, when you apply. And there is a question that looking at how you yourself can benefit from the fellowship program, and also the same time how we really apply and share our privilege that we have through the fellowship program to the wider community, not just only looking at the big community, but at least with your college, your workplace, how you really can build that and bring that back to your coworker. That's also the part I think that EI is really looking for the change that we can contribute. And I think with those process, we have to support a lot of each other through our emotional, and sometimes we just be able to, have what can we do this to support some of our fellowship fellow that also need that kind of support. So I just want to share the experience that we have with the diverse.
Yeah, so this is quite common that I hear from the fellows that sometimes when you work in this field, you feel quite alone. And I think the fellowship, it gives you some kind of support system to help you with the work, which is, what Kaneka was saying earlier. So I just want to say that I've heard this from many fellows. That's a similar experience. Every time I try to make this a less serious thing, the fellows just keep talking about the serious part. But wow, Sulia, because fellowship is still kind of fresh for you.
You want to be less serious?
Yes. What are some things that surprised you during the fellowship?
Okay, on the less serious note, I would use one word: connections. It's really surprising for me. As first, I'm joining the fellowship on the lens of I want to learn. Okay, I'm thinking maybe a lot of technical thing that I will be learning, but the things that I learn most, it's the connection and connecting with all our fellows. And the other surprising things for me is, like you mentioned, a lot of people have very high level senior people in their role already, but they're very humble, and we were really able to connect easily. I would say that's also very surprising for me. And not everyone is senior, by the way. Like I'm very junior in my role, and we have other fellows that are just step into their career as well.
Yeah.
Mm.
Okay. What if
Mm.
I throw in another question in there? By the way, if you have any questions talking to the audience, just please feel free to type it in the Q&A box and we can answer them for you. I saw a question here earlier that I thought would be interesting. Oh, yeah. So Sulia already answered it, but it's not just about, being a co-founder and all that. It's we have a range. We have a range of fellows, and each has a different role to play. Okay. What about if you apply for the program, what do you need to prepare for? Boris, do you remember all the way back
Yeah.
2019?
Basically, you have to prepare yourself. I mean, yeah, it's not serious preparation, but as I mentioned before, it's about commitment, right? Because it's 6 weeks, a year. Maybe some of us couldn't commit to that time framework because maybe they have a job, and maybe I was lucky because I'm the boss, so I don't need any permission letter. I can go everywhere as long as I can work anywhere too. But I think at the time, and also the 6 weeks commitment, because EI also are very nice. They also announce the date of the program, each program in the start of the fellowship. So you have the opportunity to arrange maybe your holiday or your your things in the office. So I think the time, the commitment, and your ideas basically. Maybe Kim also will distribute the materials before you go to the each of the program, and I think I found it useful to read before. Maybe I don't know. I know this is kind of a big ask for you to read before the program, but I think I kind of find it helpful. For example, when I went to South Africa first time, I've been to Africa 2 times before, but 2019 first time to South Africa, I learned about the fact and kind of trivia quiz on the material. So I just know that Africa is one of the most inequity countries in the world, among other top 5 countries like Russia, like other countries. And also that's why I dig in how I can make it maximum my learning. So when I went to South Africa, basically I do the networking. I asked to the some guy in the Nelson Mandela Foundation how we can, if I want to learn about the social enterprise landscape in South Africa, and I made it. I'm on the verge of proposing the thematic convening of social enterprise to Atlantic in Phuket, and then someone from Atlantic emailed me, "Are you still interested to co-design the thematic convening?" Oh, this kind of coincidence. So I think that's why I think what I also surprised and encourage from all of you about this community is you basically co-design your own learning experience. What do you want to get? What your expectation? Basically, you can ask to the EI, to Kim, to Nok, to Maitiwa, to Pia, to Peng, what kind of the challenge. You can also submit the feedback. And I know they take it seriously. They respond to our feedback. And even all the things. So I think basically you can design your learning experience by yourself. That's also happen when you join as the Global Fellows of Atlantic, because all of the things they involve us as a fellow in co-design the program, in also co-design the learning session. Basically, I or also all of us is also the facilitator, also the speaker on each program. So I think this is all about we support each other and we are part of the bigger community. So I think prepare, embrace yourself to learn and also to contribute, because I think this is yeah, we know I'm from 2019, so we know that yeah, some fellows go, some fellows still continue engage, like my friend here, Mbak Awi Orenta from Yogyakarta. She is Mrs. Atlantic, so engage in all the program. So I think that's how you can maximize, you can use this platform to your self-development, to your impact, your leadership. You can maybe have someone asking for courageous conversation, asking what's maybe uncomfortable for you. But this is, I think, it's all about the learning together and also co-design, step in or also step up. And you have to have prepare also for your call to action, because it's not just learning, but contribute. So prepare what you want to do and also your part in the systemic changes in Southeast Asia and China. Thank you, Kim.
And Kim, I just want to add a little bit in terms of how to prepare. And I agree that there is not a very intensive, like we apply for the master degree or scholarship. I remember when I applied for the fellowship program, it was just right on the time where I'm a bit stressed and also busy with the work that need to deliver. But on the same time, the one is clear to me in terms of what I really want to get out of that fellowship program. And with that clear expectation, it's allow you to really input to some of the questions that they ask us in the application, and it really there, you know, when people read it they feel it. So I think that make our application is strong, because we are clear in terms of what we really want from the fellowship program, but through reading all the program and also some of the background of those previous fellow and some of their testimony you can access there. So that allow us to also have that idea in terms of what is it look like. And I would say that it's quite easy in terms of prepare for this fellowship application.
Kim, can I also add? So I applied for 2 years and I got the fellowship on my second year. And I would say the difference was that the year that passed by, I gained a lot more experience in terms of my passionate about what I'm doing. I think that's really important in the application process.
Yeah, so actually this year we changed our eligibility. In the past, it was 5 years of experience, and this year we made it 6. And I think it's just because we found that generally with experience, you know, the fellows are more ready for something like this. And it's generally a better experience, and you will also benefit more from it as a fellow. Did anybody, I'm so surprised at how serious all the questions are. Are there any everybody on this
I will add much more aspect of fun in our fellowship. So I think it is not just about the global learning or inequities, health equity, or public policy we learn during the fellowship, but also the bonding, right? We just getting closer and closer as the fellowship goes by. So I think we used to have the fun in our program, just like karaoke session or dancing or anything. Maybe I'm also the troublemaker in my cohort. So basically, I encourage all of us to travel to the extreme places, such as in Vietnam. You remember, Kim? We traveled to the Red Train experience, right, in Hanoi, and also in South Africa. We made it to the Constitution Hill. So I think it's kind of having fun, because by knowing each other better, I think we also there's a possibility for collaboration or maybe other opportunity. So in Atlantic as well, in each of the global convening, they have the fun session, basically world music or dancing. You will have opportunity to dance with the Latin America or the Indian dancing, something. So it's gonna be exciting. So I think this is not just about the all the content, but also the the context and also the friendship, the bonding. Even I also the co-founder of the Atlantic Run Club because I'm serious runner, and also now it's getting growing and growing. We have every runner in from continent. So yeah, actually also good to have someone from the community who also passionate about sport running, because I think this is my core value, integrity. When you fight for the health inequity, I think you have to be healthy yourself. So I think this is also one of the you can create by your own. So I think that's also the fun aspect of this fellowship.
We have some questions. So one is, would there be a session to help guide, mentor first-time applicants? At this time, no. But when you're applying for the first time, I just encourage you to be honest. I mean, you've heard from our fellows and you've heard from the program staff as well about what we think good candidates are like. And I think the main thing is, it sounds very cliche, but it's to be yourself. We really want it to be a good match. Coming to the EI fellowship, it's not about, are you the highest position or no, we don't think about it like that. It's really about, fit in the community. Is there something maybe that you want to drive in the community, or that you can play a role in the community? Those are the kind of things that we're really thinking about when we're selecting, or when our committees are selecting. And that's related to the other question, which is, do you have any tips to properly write the letter of interest, or what kind of video? And again, it's really about, tell us about what you're passionate about. Tell us about yourself. What are the kind of things that you want to see, change? Maybe you've already done some things. So those are the kind of things that I would probably suggest. How do the fellows keep in touch with each other throughout the time after the program and besides the annual forum? So we have two perspectives here. We have two fellows that are still in the fellowship induction year, and then we have a senior fellow. Kaneka.
Maybe Gore's first experience from the finished program, and we still ongoing.
Yeah, actually, we have of course the WhatsApp group, but I think the challenge, the challenge of this group is some of our fellows from China couldn't able to join because the technology, and also maybe it is easier to connect with if you are still on your fellowship EI. I mean, but after you graduate, I think it's kind of challenging. So having someone in your fellowship who are have maybe the community organizer, or maybe the mascot of your cohort, or maybe are more engaged with the EI or Atlantic is also the advantage. So they can still connect you with all the rest of the community, because I think EI and AI also communicate the program through the newsletter, and also we have the global platform as well. Maybe some of us also rarely read the email, so make sure that your active email, your reference email is active, so you can access it day by day, because lots of opportunity, everything, learning session, thematic convening, grants, is right in your inbox. So maybe make sure that your referral email or your active email is your primary email. So I think that's my suggestion. And after you graduate from EI, basically, as I said many times, you will join the Atlantic group. You will have the bigger communities, also the WhatsApp group. But I think it's one way, because they have to curate, or they have to regulate the message. And maybe the main platform for the global communication is through newsletter and the hub. So Atlantic has the hub. The hub is the social media exclusive for fellows. They can check in, they can maybe inform their trip, maybe having, is there any fellow in India, is there any fellow in maybe Washington DC, when you will have a business trip there? And maybe those all about, maybe you were working on research something or program, you can also connect and read all about their bio, short bio in the hub. And also, yeah, you can check in and maybe you just announce something. So it's gonna be more, bigger community, because maybe they have now more than 700 fellows all over the world. So that's, I think, the main communication platform.
Wow. What about you? How do you stay in touch in between, the learning events?
I'm a little bit sad because I'm the only fellows from Laos, so physical meeting, it's impossible for me for our cohort. So just like Loris mentioned, we have a WhatsApp group which is really active, sharing like from political to some silly stuff, and we also connect on Instagram and Facebook, mostly Instagram, I feel, and we just commenting on each other Instagram stories. That's how we connect. And it's easier for us because we're still in the induction year. I think Kanika can also share that we are texting most of the time, yes.
Yeah, so I think what I'm getting is, there are formal forms of communication, there's formal channels, but there's also the informal ones. And I think it's easy for you to form that at the fellowship because you become friends with them, and easy for you to talk to them, and you're kind of close to them.
Yeah, I just add that part. I want to frame it from the other angle of communication. It's not a platform or the channel, but in terms of why make us connect, it's really important, because sometimes we have different group WhatsApp, but we never communicate. And the matter for us in here, I'm just sharing from the experience, is the reason for us to connect is the most important. We also have a big group. We also have a small group where people can feel like that is important for us to talk about the issue. When we feel like we need a small group to talk about some specific that make us feel safe to share sometimes personal issue among the different fellow, where we can find like someone there who can listen, who also can support. And the connection is really important for the fellow when they identify, not like example, we don't need to looking at all the community are connected, but different community can find their own belief, and the reason to connect, it is the most important. That create space, at least we make that available to all the fellow. Like sometimes we also connect with the big group, but also connect with the small group where 6 or 7 or 5 people talking together and sharing some concern and need help. So I think that's kind of the way that we keep going on and continue to build that moment together.
I think we'll take one last question and then we can start closing. And this one, I actually want to hand this one to Sulia. So here's a young person. If you add up his experience, it's below 6 years. But if you add his volunteer experience, it's more. But he feels a little bit demotivated with the eligibility criteria. What do you think?
I would say go ahead, please apply. I'm not sure. I think my experience didn't reach 5-year criteria when I applied last year. They will consider if they consider you are really motivated and passionate about what you're doing and you're very motivated to help the society. Go ahead. Why?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say the same. And again, if you don't make it your first year, I don't want you to think that that is strange. A lot of our fellows, they have to apply multiple times to make it into the fellowship. I mean, we only take 20 to 30 fellows a year. There's only so many slots. So it will happen. But I would not discourage you from applying. So this is not a question, and I'll read it out. Experience anxiety whenever I try to apply, but upon seeing my former colleagues participating in EI program, I became eager to participate. Looking forward. I'm glad that you said that, and I encourage you to apply and be a part of our community. I just wanted to close with all the different ways that you can connect with us. There are QR codes to our social media, to our website. That's where you start your application. And if you have any other questions for us that weren't addressed today, you can use the email here, our info@equityinitiative.org. And I'd like to thank our fellows who are very generous with their time. Again, you see the theme of commitment is here. Our 3 fellows from Laos, Cambodia, and Indonesia. Thank you for being so generous and giving back to our community. And with that, I'd like to close the 2023 EI Online Open House. Thank you all for coming and have a great evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kim.
We are waiting for your application.
Yes.
Wish you luck.